This is Jay Bradley with Creepy Encounters. Following is the edited version of the Chippewa River encounter that occurred on August 12, 2019. It is early in the afternoon and my wife and I are fishing on the Chippewa River in Rusk County, Wisconsin. The view you see here in this video is the wood line along the eastern bank of the river. We were anchored about 60 feet away from the bank when all of a sudden a loud commotion erupted in the woods downstream from our position and about 30 yards away. The red arrow points to the spot where this disturbing commotion occurred. It sounded like large limbs were being broken, coupled with a loud thrashing sound. As the loud thrashing sound subsided, there was a distinctive cry of a wild turkey in distress in that same general area. The entire episode only lasted about 20 seconds. Immediately after the disturbance, the woods in the area near the boats became completely silent. I looked at my wife and I told her, quote, that in all the years I have been hunting and fishing, I have never heard anything like that before in the outdoors. That prompted me to grab my iPhone 7 Plus, and I began shooting footage of the area where the sound emanated from near the riverbank to see if I could catch something on camera. While I was shooting the footage, all I could see were small white spots that were appearing and then disappearing amongst the foliage along the riverbank. I thought maybe I was seeing the tail or the antlers of a white-tailed deer buck through the foliage, and that possibly he was violently rubbing his rack on some saplings and making scrapes. You hear me raise that very question during the original unedited video that only lasts 1 minute and 26 seconds. However, I knew in my gut that something very unusual had just occurred. It sounded like the turkey had been attacked by some kind of predator. With this in mind, I decided to ease myself out of the boat, and I began to wade in the knee-deep water of the Chip, close to the shore, at the area where the attack had taken place. As I walked up the bank, I was running through my mind the type of predators that could take down what I assumed to be an adult turkey in this part of northwestern Wisconsin. The only apex predators that came to mind were the wolf, black bear, bobcat, and cougar. Cougar sightings have been confirmed in the area over the past several years, and even with that in mind, I believed it was very unlikely that any of these predators would attack me. My wife was not thrilled with this decision, but I was bound and determined to find out what caused the attack. Little did I know that I was going to investigate a spot where a possible predator that was not made of bone, fur, or flesh had attacked a wild turkey. I make that unusual statement based on what I saw when I reviewed the footage later that night. The footage revealed that there was a lot of strange activity occurring in or around the spot where I believe the attack had taken place. There were a series of luminous white or silver-colored objects a few inches in diameter that were airborne and traveling at a very high rate of speed. These small luminous objects were at times appearing to enter and leave a boiling or flashing luminous mass on the forest floor. The red arrow denotes the spot where this luminous mass was located a few feet inside the wood line. These same objects appeared to possibly enter and leave a circular luminous object elevated in the forest canopy above the same spot where the turkey was attacked. The red arrow in the far upper right of frame shows where this stationary luminous light was located. Also, you will notice at certain times that this luminous entity appears to move horizontally through the foliage, like it was some sort of living luminous liquid. There's a lot going on in the following video. Several of the objects that you see were moving so quickly during the original unedited version that I was not able to detect them until I slowed down the video and watched it frame by frame. Please bear with me as I walk you through what I have observed after analyzing it a countless number of times. This is the beginning of the video. You will see here on the left where this arrow is what I call living luminous light. It moves from left to right and moves into what I call the periscope. It's this little structure that's just to the left of that tree with the dark trunk. It moves into that periscope, sits for a split second, and disappears. You will see light move into this particular structure later on in the video. You will note that I did freeze frame it here. There's that light inside that periscope, and then you'll see it fade away very quickly right there. I've zoomed in. Let's take a look at that periscope to the left of that dark trunk of that tree, center of frame. There goes that luminous entity into the periscope, and you will see it disappear at this point, fade away. Also, you will see some flashes of light prior to that luminous entity entering the periscope. It's very interesting. Let's take a look at that a third time. Flashes of light right there. Luminous entity moving from left to right into the periscope, and then it fades away. Right there. Note the red arrow upper right of frame. Follow that down. You'll see now descending towards it is a luminous object. I call that a dash orb. You will see several of these during the video. It sat there for a split second. I put it in freeze frame right now. Then it shot off at a 45-degree angle to the left, down into the foliage on the forest floor into what I call the luminous mass. And we'll take a look at that in just a second. We're going to continue to focus on that red arrow. At the tip of it is that dash orb. Here in just a second, you will see it descend down and to the left at a 45-degree angle into the foliage on the forest floor, and you will see that luminous mass start to boil in that location right there. Let's get a closer look at this. This is the dash orb. It's going to descend down at a 45-degree angle, contact that area in the undergrowth where that luminous mass starts to boil. This is at 10% of normal speed. This is how fast this is occurring. In the original video, unedited version, this occurs within the first 3 seconds, and you can't hardly even see this dash orb under normal speed move down and contact that area. Let's look at this a third time. Right there. And it just zips down, and there's an immediate response for some reason to this dash orb contacting this area in the undergrowth. This red arrow denotes the area where we heard the turkey in distress. In just a few seconds, you're going to see a sapling bounce up and down right there, and then the luminous mass down and to the left starts to boil. Let's zoom in and take a closer look at this. We've now zoomed in. Let's take a look at that sapling bouncing up and down right there. And down and to the left, you will see that luminosity occurring at that point. Let's take a look at this again. If you look very closely where that sapling's bouncing up and down, you're going to see some luminosity also in that location, in addition to where the luminous mass is found in the undergrowth. Let's look at that one more time. There's a sapling. It's going to bounce up and down. That luminosity is occurring right near that sapling in addition to where the luminous mass is located. Here's another shot of that living luminous liquid moving from the periscope to the left. Let's zoom in and take a closer look at that. Right there, moves to the left and disappears into the undergrowth. Take a look at that a second time. Right there, it leaves the periscope, moves to the left, and disappears. When I saw these things with the naked eye, it just looked like white dots or lights. And once you get a closer look, you get a better idea of really what was going on. Now you'll see this luminous liquid move its way back from left to right, enter the periscope, make a clockwise turn, and disappear. Let's zoom in and take a look at that. Right there. Clockwise movement it appears to be, and gone. If you look closely, you're going to see some sparkling, if you will, to the right of the periscope also. I'm not sure what that means. Right in there against the tree trunk itself before it disappears into the vegetation on the forest floor. Now we're going to focus on this red arrow. You're going to see 2 dash orbs move across this area. There's one there, one over top arcing off to the right. This is at 10% normal speed. This is how fast these things are traveling. One there. Let's look at this one more time. Small one, traveling from left to right. And there's the second one, arcing over the tip and disappearing into the forest at right of frame. Let's take a look at this dash orb moving from left to right, passing up into the canopy where that luminous object is. Let's look at this 2 more times. This is at 10% normal speed. This is how fast this thing is traveling. This is not an insect. I'm an entomologist, and they simply don't travel that quickly. I don't know what this is. Here's another dash orb traveling from left to right, speeding downriver. Let's get a couple more looks at this. This is at 10% normal speed. This is how fast these objects are traveling. We would barely be able to see them with the naked eye. Here's another dash orb, definitely leaving that spot where the luminous mass was located and curiously going up to that luminous object in the canopy. That's its destination. Let's look at this one more time. It arcs its way up right there. Here's another dash orb upper right of frame that is not speeding along like these others were. Just kind of lazily moving off to the right of frame. I've zoomed in. Let's look at this a little bit closer. I don't believe this is an insect. As I mentioned earlier, I am an entomologist. It appears to be the same size as these other dash orbs. Has that silver sheen, if you will. And there it is again for a third time. Now we're going to see a dash orb return to that area where the luminous mass was located. Let's zoom in and take a closer look at that. Kind of a wobbly appearance to its flight path for this one, but disappearing in that same location. This concludes the edited video of the Chippewa River encounter. As I mentioned earlier, that after I shot the video, I jumped out of the boat and waded to the bank to get a closer look at the location where I heard the distress cry from the turkey. I walked down the edge of the tree line and back into the woods where I heard the commotion, and not to my surprise, I found an area where the ferns and other vegetation had been completely flattened down. Again, not to my surprise, the disturbed area contained feathers from a wild turkey. This screenshot shows you some of the feathers I found on the forest floor in the disturbed location where it appears the attack occurred. The feathers were from various parts of the turkey. There was no blood of any kind in or around the scene of the attack. I spent several minutes combing the area to see if I could find the turkey or any sign of it having been dragged off into the woods, but found nothing. I had the uneasy feeling that I was being watched, but brushed that off as my imagination getting the best of me, knowing that a predator of some size only minutes before may have attacked a wild turkey, and it could be hiding in the dense vegetation extremely close to me on the forest floor. However, I did not know at the time that some kind of strange combination of luminous objects or entities may have been responsible for the attack. As I mentioned in the introduction, I did not recognize these anomalous predatory objects for what they were at the time I shot the video. It was only when I reviewed the footage later that night that I saw these bizarre and strangely behaving objects in and around the site of the attack. I have shown the edited video first so the viewer can get their bearings and know that several of these luminous objects that appear are moving extremely fast and are far enough away that they may be difficult to see on the unedited video. Also, there were other dash orbs on this edited video that I noticed when I watched it frame by frame that I did not mention because they entered and exited the scene so quickly that I did not want it to become tedious and monotonous to watch. However, I would suggest you watch the unedited video frame by frame to see these objects that are traveling at a very high rate of speed. It is hard for me to wrap my head around the idea that there may be a colony of luminous predatory objects that haunt the forest of northwestern Wisconsin that are capable of killing a wild turkey. If so, could they kill and make disappear larger prey like a human being? Is it possible that these luminous predatory objects are not just restricted to the forests of northwestern Wisconsin and could be found in other forested areas throughout the U.S.? That makes me wonder if there is a possible connection between the presence of these luminous entities and the documented mysterious disappearances of people in our state and national forest. I know that's a stretch of the imagination, but whoever would have thought that these kinds of anomalies existed in the first place? Feel free to leave your comments, questions, and observations about what you have seen in this footage, as well as on my other paranormal caught on camera videos on my website at creepyencounters.com. Thanks.